Hello everybody, and welcome back to another EPI video. Today is October 15th, 2024, and today I'll be talking about something that I haven't touched base on quite yet. Um, but first of all, I want to look at the national numbers. Harris leads by 1.4 percentage points, which is insufficient. James Carville has openly said she needs to win by 3. They're like, oh, she's leading, but if she's not actually leading by 3, then is she actually winning, right? So if you look at that, then 1, 2, 3, she's leading in 3 polls, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and losing in 6 polls. If you look at it at the way James Carville takes it. Now, this isn't a great indicator of who will win, but it's not great. She should be up more, but it's also good for her that at least she is up. And then I want to dive deeper into this because I started looking at the crosstabs, at least you could say the racial crosstabs of all the polls in here. And I could find 4 crosstabs, racial crosstabs, for the polls in this aggregate. And obviously you've heard a lot of buzz recently about black voters shifting to Trump by large margins. And what I want to do here is dive into this video to see, well, is that true? Is that actually reality? Or is it just a bunch of buzz, a bunch of noise, and it's not actually going to be a factor that will shake up this election too much? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So of the polls I analyzed, first of all, I should mention that Joe Biden in the 2020 Edison exit poll won black voters 87% of the vote. Trump got 12% of the vote, so he won black voters by 75 percentage points. And I looked here, and here on YouGov, Harris was up 66. CBS, she matched Biden's number. Ipsos up 69, and Harvard Harris up only 41. So if you could see, CBS, it's the same, but on the other 3 polls, there's a 6-point shift to Trump, a 9-point shift to Trump, or in insane circumstances, very unlikely to actually materialize, but a 34-point shift to Trump among black voters. Another key thing, there's 2 other key things, but one more is black women seem to be 2/3 of the electorate just based off the exit poll, and black men are probably much more likely to shift towards Trump than black women. So the gains would be much more limited just because of that disparity. But we've seen this, and that's just what the polling shows. So the polling indicates, even if this one's right, most of them have indicated that I've ever seen, that definitely the black vote is shifting towards Trump. Like, that is not a myth in terms of the polls. The polls indicate, never say the polls prove, because the polls can't prove anything, but the polls indicate that the black voters are shifting towards Trump. Some by significant margins, or I could say earth-shattering, and some by margins that are still significant, but not earth-shattering, and then some, well, that's the same. That's the amount Joe Biden won it by. And as you can see here, young black voters are less Democratic in 2024. This was done with Biden. I bet you Harris is doing better among those voters than Biden is, but it still showed something that I still believe to be true. That 75 plus, look at the black voters. You see, Trump wins 3%, right? 65 to 74, 10. 55 to 64, it actually dips, but once you get to 45 to 54, 14.6. 35 to 44, 25. Same thing with the youngest generation, almost 24. And then 25 to 34-year-olds, they're 38. So younger black voters, and this is probably because of less of a commitment to the Democratic Party based off just the fact that black voters faced oppression in the 1960s, but obviously that date keeps ticking farther and farther away. So that is probably the reason that less of them, as the younger they get, feel less inclined to stick with the Democratic Party. And that's a broader problem for the Democrats. There's problems for both parties in terms of broad trends when you look at it in crosstabs, and that's one of the broad problems for the Democrats is less commitment, a lot less commitment among the younger generation of African American voters. But as you can see through these polls, or even through this study, it's a thing. And Polymarket, Trump gets more black voters in 2024. The official thing is, according to CNN exit polls, Donald Trump received 12% from the 2020. The market will resolve to yes if Donald Trump's share is 13% or greater, which a lot of polls by far most show. And so currently he has a 77% chance of receiving more black voters this time around than he did last time around. And, that's very interesting. And that's not as, it's still very crucial in every state because obviously, in all swing states, it could come down to thousands of votes. And that's absolutely huge to get gains from black voters. And I mean, through all of this, I think Trump will. I do think it's overhyped with what you see on right-wing media of black voters saying they like Trump. If they like him, that doesn't mean they'll ever vote for him. Who knows if they're registered even. And you see it on right-wing media and they say, oh, or even just right-wing, I guess you could say YouTube channels, all that type of stuff. It's overhyped. Who knows? Most of them don't seem like they're going to vote. I mean, we have seen through the study that Trump's base is much lower propensity than Kamala Harris's base. And while that is overhyped, there is a general trend that I want to say here. So in the 2000 election, here are the exit polls for black voters. Al Gore beat George Bush by 81 points. You can look at now 2004. In the same exit polls, John Kerry was only leading by 77. Now that's a 4-point shift, but it's still a shift. And although exit polls can be really wonky, I'm just going based off what I see here, and it can still likely show shifts. At least we hope. And so you think the shift is happening? Black voters are becoming less loyal to the Democratic Party. 2008. Well, Obama very much reset that clock. As you can see here, he won black voters by 91 points. He reset that clock because obviously he had very broad appeal. And even in 2012, when he had a little bit less, still, as you can see here, he won by 87 points. So definitely a shift to the right, but still much better than the 2000 and 2004. So Obama reset that clock. But again, the shift seemed to appear again in 2016, when you can see here that black voters were only won not by 87 points, but by 80 points. And then you even go to 2020, and their exit polling, it went to, as we spoke before, 75. So since 2008, 16-point shift to the right, and since 2000, 6-point shift to the right, because again Obama upset it, but still appears true. And so this is a general shift. This is a broad trend, as we can see here, and it is true that Donald Trump did do the best. He did get the highest vote share, and he also, in terms of net margin, did the best among black voters more than any other Republican candidate in the 21st century. And in the 2024 election, will it be better? Polling, betting markets, broad trends, they do seem to indicate that he will increase his vote share. And even if it's overhyped, it still is significant, especially in a close election like this. And there are other factors that could be better for Harris. But this, if just touching base on African American voters, this seems to be the case. And you can even look at 2022 and even see their voter demographics. And black voters, again, they're won by Democrats by 73. So even a slight shift to the Republicans. So really, this is a broad trend. And that's a problem because there's one thing. That's one problem. And it's of the black voters voting, there's a shift to the right. But also, how many black voters will be voting? That's another key problem. And that might be an even bigger problem for Kamala Harris, because it was a huge problem for Joe Biden, but it might be a bigger one. Because let's just look at various Senate races in 2022. Look at Louisiana. Huge overperformance by John Kennedy, even with black Democratic candidates. Not much appeal. Look at Arkansas. John Bozeman, he won by, I don't know, that's almost 35. Trump won by 28. And this wasn't a year that went super well for Republicans. Katie Britt, she won her Senate race by 36 points in a state that Trump won by, I think, around 26. Florida, there was a red wave there, but Val Demings, she's an African-American woman, but not much appeal either, not lower turnout. 16-point victory for Marco Rubio, as we can see here. It was a broad problem. Tim Scott's race, he is African-American, and Crystal Matthews, I'm not sure if she is, but she's still a Democrat. 26 points, super different. North Carolina, Sherry Beasley, an African-American woman. Trump won by 1.4. She loses by over 3. And much lower turnout, by the way. Almost like, I think, 900,000 votes less than Biden. Kentucky, that was okay. I mean, it was a little bit better because Rand Paul might be controversial, maybe too libertarian for some Republicans, and so we got lower turnout, and that was a little bit better for Charles Booker. But Indiana, now this isn't necessarily a southern state and it's not a black candidate, but in terms of loyalty to the voters, the African American voters of the Democratic Party, 21-point victory for Todd Young there. And so I think we can see in the South that there was a broad problem. In Georgia, Herschel Walker was a horrendous candidate. Stacey Abrams, for instance, in the governor's race got shellacked by 7.5 points. Not great turnout, and black voters seem to like her, but again, not great turnout. Warnock won because he had a big war chest. He branded Herschel Walker as stupid and just out of touch, and it seemed to have worked. And so that's why he won that. But that's a battleground state. That's not as good of an example. Even though Georgia is a key swing state in the 2024 election, that Democrats would like for black voters to highly turn out for Kamala Harris. But the broad problem that we saw throughout 2022 was, and you can even see in the exit polling that they won 12th, I guess you could say, because it was 12%. They were 12% of the electorate in 2020, 11% in 2022, which doesn't seem like it means much, but if it's 1/12, it really could. Well, they have much lower turnout throughout the South. That's where most African Americans are concentrated. I think we can pull that up here. African Americans are concentrated in the highest rate of really anywhere in the country in the South, and you can see that here. It shows it much less anywhere else in the South. It's their highest concentration. It's just objectively true, and so that's a key way to gauge if not just are black voters shifting to Republicans, but also if enthusiasm is down. And I think that could be a problem that could plague Kamala Harris in November. So anyways, everybody, thank you for watching this video so much. Be sure to recommend other videos for me in the comments down below. Any suggestions, I would be happy to take them up and make videos about them. And please please subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. EPI out.